Before we dive into today's intense story, a quick reminder. Over 90% of our viewers watch our videos but aren't subscribed. If you enjoy content like this, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if you find this story gripping, don't forget to like the video. It really helps us out. I never imagined I'd be telling this story, not to anyone, let alone out loud, but maybe, just maybe, by the end of it, someone out there will understand why I did what I did. I'm not looking for sympathy. I don't want anyone's pity. I just want to speak my truth, and maybe that'll be enough. My name is Nayla. I've been married to Samir for nearly 13 years. 0.13 long, layered, complicated years. We weren't always unhappy. In fact, there was a time when I would have sworn to anyone that I had married the kindest, most loyal man alive. We met young, too young probably. It was full of charm. The kind of man who knew just what to say and when to say it. I was quiet, more cautious than him, but I was drawn to his confidence like a moth to a flame. He made me feel seen, important, chosen. The first 5 years of our marriage were decent. We built a life together from scratch. We weren't rich, but we managed. I supported him through 2 job losses, encouraged him to go back to school, and helped him finish his MBA. When he was promoted to a manager's role at a marketing firm, I was genuinely proud of him. I never expected anything in return. I believe that's what love was, giving without keeping count. But slowly, over the years, things began to shift. At first, it was subtle. He stopped asking me how my day was. He started coming home later, often with the excuse of extra meetings or team dinners. He became oddly protective of his phone, changing his password and never leaving it unattended. Still, I tried not to overthink it. I told myself he was just stressed, busy, that I needed to be more understanding. But it's funny how your heart knows before your mind is ready to accept the truth. There were signs I ignored, the cologne he never used before, the hair on his coat that wasn't mine, the dinner receipts in his jeans pockets from restaurants we never visited together. I suppressed every suspicion because I didn't want to believe that the man I gave my life to would betray me. I told myself that only insecure wives snooped or doubted. I was above that, wasn't I? Until one night, everything crumbled. It was a Wednesday. I remember it clearly. It was raining hard, and Samir called to say he was going to be home late again. He said there was a networking event he couldn't miss. But something inside me snapped that evening. I don't know why. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe I had just reached my limit. I didn't plan anything dramatic. I simply got in my car and drove to his office, parked across the street, and waited. Past, my fingers were cold and my heart thudded in my chest like a drum. Then I saw him walking out of the building. Not alone. She was younger, prettier, and laughing too loudly at something he said. And then, without hesitation, he touched her lower back and kissed her cheek in a way he hadn't touched me in years. My stomach turned. I could have burst out of the car, screamed, caused a scene, but I didn't. I just sat there watching them disappear. Down the road, hand in hand. That night, I didn't cry, not even once. It was like my body had gone numb. I went home, reheated the food I had made for him, and sat at the table alone. When he finally walked in around midnight, smelling of her perfume, he smiled and gave me a half-hearted excuse about the networking. Running long, I smiled back. I didn't confront him. I didn't scream. That would have given him too much power. I knew, from that moment on, the man I once loved was a stranger. And you don't beg strangers to stay. You beat them at their own game. The next morning, I started building my plan. First, I began documenting everything. Photos, dates, times, screenshots. I followed him, quietly and methodically, and built a case stronger than steel. While he thought I was folding laundry or planning dinners, I was learning everything about her. Who she was, where she worked, her habits, her weaknesses. I even befriended one of her colleagues anonymously through a fake social media profile and gathered. It's more than enough information to fill a folder. But I didn't want to just expose him. No, that would be too simple, too temporary. I wanted to dismantle him slowly, just like he had done to me, one piece at a time. I started playing my part again. The doting wife, the understanding partner. I smiled when he lied, nodded when he dismissed me, and made him believe I was still under his spell. All the while, I was setting up the next phase. Smear had always been reckless with money. What he didn't know was that I had quietly created my own small business, selling handmade crafts online. It wasn't much at first, but I reinvested every rupee, built it up slowly, and after 2 years of hard work, it had grown into a stable income source. He had no idea. I had created an entirely separate financial identity under my maiden name. No shared bank accounts, no paper trails. While he lavished her with gifts and dinners, I was building my freedom. I also started recording our conversations, innocent ones at first, then ones where he slipped up, talked about her in vague terms, admitted to being unhappy and needing space. Every word, every sigh stored safely in a hidden drive. Not because I needed them to prove something in court, but because I needed the truth documented for myself for closure. Then came the day I decided to push him, just a little. I told him I wanted us to go on a small trip, just the two of us. To reconnect. He was hesitant, made excuses, but eventually agreed. I chose a quiet resort far from the city. And during that weekend, I watched him. Every little movement, every glance at his phone, every irritated sigh. He couldn't fake it for even 2 days. I knew then, beyond doubt, that he had no love left for me, and yet I played my part. Loving, warm, forgiving. On the last night of the trip, I left a note beside his pillow. It simply read, "I know." He didn't mention it when we got home. It never brought it up. Maybe he thought it was vague, a joke, or maybe he chose to ignore it out of guilt. Either way, it was confirmation that he knew the truth was closing in, but I still wasn't done. My next step was to remove him from my world without him realizing. I changed the power of attorney documents. I transferred the house lease to my name, citing an issue with his ID. I slowly untangled myself from everything joint. Every signature, every password, every point of access. I reclaimed it all, quietly, legally. And then I waited for the perfect moment to strike. That moment would come on our anniversary, a day that he had forgotten for the past 2 years. But this year, he would remember it forever. He didn't remember our anniversary again. The man who once spent an entire paycheck on a surprise dinner and handwritten letters now forgot the date without blinking. That day came and went like any other Wednesday. He left early in the morning, mumbling something about a presentation. I made his favorite breakfast. He didn't notice. I kissed his cheek. He pulled away, annoyed eyes already glued to his phone. I stood there in the kitchen, holding a plate of eggs and toast that would grow cold. But this year, I was ready. I spent that entire day executing the plan I had been preparing for months. Every piece was in place, every backup checked. Every file encrypted and ready to be released with a single command. I wasn't going to throw a tantrum or beg him to notice me. I was going to walk away from the fire after setting it ablaze. By noon, I had sent anonymous envelopes to 4 key people. His employer, her fiancé. Yes, she had one, which made this even sweeter. And his closest friend, the one who believed we were the perfect couple. Inside each envelope were photos, printed screenshots of their messages, call logs and dates. There were even bank statements showing charges from a jewelry store where Samir had bought a bracelet he never gave to me. Everything was neat, undeniable, and factual. No need for drama, just truth served cold. I also scheduled the release of a video I had recorded weeks earlier. It was calm, composed, and direct. I didn't cry in it. I didn't raise my voice. I simply laid out the facts, dates, actions, betrayal. I ended it with a single sentence. When a woman stops crying, she starts calculating. I uploaded it privately, shared it with a few trusted people, and scheduled it to go public only if anything ever happened to me, not because I feared for my life, but because I knew Samir. His ego couldn't stand being exposed. I needed leverage, and then came the final, most delicate part of my plan, the confrontation. It happened that evening. He came home late again, tired, frustrated, annoyed, as if being my husband was an unbearable task. I welcomed him with a smile, a warm dinner, and a small gift wrap box on the table. "What's this?" he asked, barely glancing at me. "Our anniversary," I said gently, watching his expression shift as if trying to remember something that didn't matter anymore. "Oh yeah, sorry. Long day at work." I nodded and said nothing. He opened the box. Inside was a flash drive, labeled simply, "For your honesty." He stared at it, confused. I turned around, picked up my tea, and walked to the balcony. I didn't need to see his face when he watched it. I already knew every flicker of guilt, fear, and shame he was about to feel. But most of all, I knew he wouldn't admit a thing. He came. Outside after 15 minutes, pale and quiet. "Where did you get all this?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Where do you think?" I replied, still looking at the sky. He sat down slowly, as if the weight of his own actions had finally settled on his shoulders. "I'm sorry," he said. "That was all. Not I was wrong, not I betrayed you, not even I'll fix this. Just sorry." A useless word. Too late to heal what he had. Broken. I didn't scream. I didn't even raise my voice. Instead, I pulled out a thick manila envelope from my bag and slid it toward him. "What's this?" "Divorce papers," I said calmly. "Already signed on my end. I suggest you do the same." He froze. "Wait, what? You don't have to do this. We can talk." "No, Samir, I begged you to talk for years. You chose silence. You chose her." His eyes darted nervously. "You don't need to humiliate me. We can keep this private." "Oh, we will," I smiled. "As long as you cooperate quietly. No games, no delays. Sign, and I'll walk away." "But what about everything?" "We built the house. I already moved my business under my maiden name. The house lease is in my name. The car you drive is leased under your company's account. You'll return it next week." His mouth opened, but no words came. He was caught. Not just emotionally, but practically. Every asset, every piece of leverage had been removed from him quietly, methodically, by the woman he thought was too soft to stand up for herself. "You really did all this?" he finally whispered. I nodded. "And I did it while cooking your meals, folding your clothes, smiling through your lies, because I had to, because you underestimated me." He didn't argue after that. He didn't beg or yell. He just sat there, small and shrunken. A man stripped of power by the very woman he thought was powerless. I left 2 days later. Didn't take much. Just my clothes, my documents, and my peace of mind. I moved into a small apartment I had rented under a new identity. No one knew where I was. Not even my own parents at first. I needed space, silence, a chance to breathe without carrying the weight of betrayal on my back. For the first time in years, I slept without waking up in the middle of the night. I made tea without wondering if he'd come home angry. I laughed at silly things. I reconnected with friends I had pushed away while trying to keep a dying marriage alive. But I wasn't done. 2 weeks later, the final blow arrived. She found out her fiancé, the man she was supposed to marry in 3 months, had received my package and done his own investigating. When he confirmed everything, he exposed her to their families. Their engagement was called off, and her workplace was abuzz with scandal. She deleted her social media. Samir's office, too, had quietly demoted him, citing personal misconduct that violated workplace policy. He called me once, just once. "Why did you do all this?" he asked, voice heavy with defeat. "You gave me no choice," I said. "You ruined me," he said bitterly. "No," I replied. "You did that to yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it, and I hung up." That was the last time I ever heard his voice. It's been a year now, a full year since I walked out of that house. That life, that version of myself. Sometimes it feels like it happened to another woman, a stranger with my face. Other times, I can still feel the weight of those last days pressing against my chest like a bruise that hasn't fully faded. But it's not pain anymore. It's proof. Proof that I survived, that I chose myself. People always talk about revenge like it's something loud, a scream, a confrontation, a scene. But I learned that the most powerful revenge is done in silence, with purpose. Not to destroy, but to free yourself from destruction. After I left Samir, I started rebuilding my life brick by brick. The business I had started in secret, I made it official. I rebranded it with my own name. My story, my real story, became the foundation of my brand. I didn't play victim. I shared my truth. And to my surprise, so many women reached out to say they had lived through something similar. Quiet betrayals, gaslighting, being made to feel invisible. My story became more than just mine. It became a voice for others who hadn't yet found theirs. I started offering workshops for women on self-sufficiency, emotional boundaries, and business basics. I wasn't a therapist, and I never pretended to be, but I knew what it meant to lose yourself in someone else. And I wanted to help others avoid that slow, silent erasure. I even went back to school part-time, finally pursuing the degree I had shelved for years while supporting Samir's ambitions. This time I studied on my own terms, and it felt right. Like a promise I was keeping to my younger self. Of course, not everything was perfect. There were lonely nights, mornings, when I missed the illusion of comfort. Days when anger came flooding back like a wave I thought I'd already swum through. But healing isn't linear, and it doesn't come wrapped in a bow. It comes slowly, honestly. And sometimes through tears, you cry alone in the kitchen while stirring your tea. Samir tried contacting me 3 times after that first phone call. I never answered. He emailed once saying he was trying to change, that he was doing therapy, and understood everything now. But his words felt like dust, too late, too thin to matter. I never responded. Not because I hate him, not because I wished him harm, but because I was done allowing someone who broke me to narrate my worth. He remarried, 6 months after our divorce, to someone else. Not her. I heard through someone that it was rushed, that he was trying to start over. I didn't feel anything when I heard the news. Not relief, not regret, just emptiness. That chapter was closed, irrelevant to the woman I had become. I changed my name back to the one I was born with. Not to erase the past, but to reclaim the person I used to be before he rewrote my story in lies and apologies that never came. People ask me now if I regret anything. Not loving him, not marrying him, not walking away. Every step was necessary. Even the painful ones, because it was through that pain I found a strength I never knew I had. Revenge isn't about making someone else hurt the way you did. It's about rising so high that their betrayal becomes a footnote in the legacy of your resilience. These days, I wake up and open my windows to the sun. I drink my coffee slow. I write in a journal. I smile at strangers. I laugh, really laugh, with people who see me, not who I pretend to be. I no longer shrink to fit anyone's version of a perfect woman. I am whole on my own, unapologetically. And if you're listening to this, if you've ever found yourself hiding your pain, making yourself smaller to keep someone else comfortable, pretending it's all okay just to avoid confrontation, I want you to know this. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to start over even if your voice shakes the first time you say no more. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about what you do to them. It's about everything you become without them. And me, I became someone I actually love. That's the ending I always deserved. And this time, I wrote it myself.